The Department of Transportation has announced a $140 million civil penalty against Southwest Airlines for stranding over 2 million passengers over the 2022 holiday season. Joining us now, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and CNBC's Phil LeBeau, who broke this story earlier here on Squawk Box. And Mr. Secretary, always good to see you. Mr. Secretary, Mayor Secretary, you always play along with whatever we go, but it's good to have you on.
Pete.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. I mentioned to Phil earlier that, I mean, we're going to talk about this. Phil broke the story, wants to talk to you all about it, but it just seems like things have gotten a little better this year. I don't know whether it's your efforts with the Transportation Secretary, but we are going back a whole year to highlight these problems. And we've been through some pretty busy periods where the weather wasn't perfect. And I'm just wondering, is the industry done something to manage better? It seems like it has, or the Transportation Department.
I would say so, and there's a lot of credit to go around. Look, today's announcement is a big penalty and enforcement action related to failures that took place a year ago. But I would also say that over the course of the last year, we've seen much better outcomes than we had a year or a year and a half ago. I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure that we put on airlines, and a lot of it also is the airlines should be credited for stepping up in response to that pressure. This year, we saw some of the biggest travel days ever. Matter of fact, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, that was the most passengers to board airplanes in the United States of America in our history. And the cancellation rate was less than 0.5%. Part of it is that weather was better on certain key days. Then again, we went through some storms, and the big problem we had a year and a half ago was even on blue sky days, there were breakdowns, delays, cancellations, that kind of thing. So this is really, I think, reflecting that there has been real improvement over the last year. But part of what we saw with the Southwest breakdown a year ago was that it's not just about the weather, right? The entire system, if you remember where we were right around Christmas 2022, the whole system got clobbered by this major winter storm. But then all of the other airlines got back on their feet quickly. Southwest was a different story, and this is about accountability and, frankly, changing the incentives for airlines to make sure that that can't happen again.
Mr. Secretary, it's Phil LeBeau here. Good morning. I'm curious from your perspective, how important is part of the agreement in this action with Southwest is the creation of a $90 million reserve fund, if you will, a delay compensation fund? Because I know that's something you've been talking with the airlines and pushing them for some time. They've been resistant to that. But now Southwest has said, yes, at least for the next 3 years, we will have this fund where people who are delayed more than 3 hours can receive compensation of like a $75 voucher. How important is that to you in your perspective that this is the next step for the industry in terms of taking care of the passenger?
Yeah, I think it is important. Southwest is going to be leading the industry, if only because they've been ordered to. And we want to see how the industry and the market respond to that. Look, the $35 million cash, that was important because we really feel that the cash penalties in the past haven't been enough to change behavior by some of these companies. So I think the biggest one we'd done historically was Air Canada at about $4.5 million. So this is almost 10 times that. But as important as that cash fine was, we didn't want the majority of this to be in the form of dollars going to the Treasury. We want most of this to be dollars going back to customers. And that's what the $90 million is about. It's a requirement that for the next 3 years, with these $90 million, they go into vouchers, $75 on top of needing to get your meals or hotel or anything like that covered. If you have a long delay and it's the airline's fault, you get that added cash compensation. I want to see how the market responds, how the industry responds, because in parallel, we're working on a rule looking at how this could become an industry standard to have some kind of direct compensation. But we don't want to have to wait on a federal rule to, in the process, which can take a very long time to become a reality. And so even though it's part of a penalty action, I'm excited to see this kind of customer benefit that'll be available to Southwest passengers starting in the spring of next year.
Do you really think other airlines will do this voluntarily, or do you think it will take a rule?
We've seen a couple of them respond, not to this level, to the call we put out to offer some kind of compensation. It's a very different story in other parts of the world. In Europe, you can, depending how long you're delayed, get hundreds of euros as cash compensation. And again, the idea there is not only does the airline need to rebook you or cover your meals, but there needs to be some accountability for wasting your time if it's something that's the airline's fault. Again, that we know that nobody controls the weather. We're not punishing airlines for bad weather. We're holding them responsible for how they treat passengers. And we've seen a lot of appetite ever since I was with the president earlier announcing that we were launching this rulemaking process. We know the flying public is interested, and I even think it's to the benefit of the sector, the industry as a whole, for people to have a better feeling about what to expect in their passenger experience. I think this kind of compensation could add to that. So I think at the end of the day, it can be a win-win, although I know the airlines don't necessarily see it that way.
Mr. Secretary, we're going to have perhaps the first time ever more than 3 million people flying in a day, perhaps by the end of this year during this next holiday travel rush. Are the airports, the air traffic controllers, is the system ready for this surge of traffic?
Well, again, earlier this year we had some record numbers, 2.9 million on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and the system held up quite well. But the real answer to your question is there needs to be more growth and more work on all fronts. The airlines are going to have to do more to staff up and to get ready. FAA does too, and that's why we're urging Congress to work with us to add controllers. The number of controllers has been going down for more than a decade. We finally reversed that. We've got it going up again, headed in the right direction. But in order to have hiring take place faster than retirements and separations, we really need the funding to stay ahead of attrition. It's one of a million reasons why we can't come back in January and go right into shutdown, because that would shut down our training and hiring. So, yes, the airlines need to do more to get ready. We need to make sure we have more controllers and air traffic control capability. And then the third leg of that stool is the physical infrastructure. And one of many, many reasons why the infrastructure package that we pushed so hard for, that was such a big priority for President Biden, one of the many reasons that's needed is that we are using it to expand capacity at our airports, whether it's making one of the concourses at Atlanta wider, or getting better baggage handling capacity in Denver, or creating better environments for security checkpoints. Remember, most of our airline terminals were designed pre-9/11. And so the whole checkpoint system is grafted on to an architecture that was not originally set up with our modern security needs in mind. Airport by airport, we're helping to change that with this infrastructure funding.
Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Joe, Becky, I will send it back to you.